Hi, this is Judy, and this is my channel. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about why reincarnation is. What is it? What's the point? And can I really have been some famous person in a past life? The kind of thing. I would like to also, at some point in another video, because it'll be a little bit too long if I do it in this one, talk about why reincarnation doesn't appear in very many, we'll say, Bibles or, holy scripture type of things. In the Western religions, and yet in the Eastern religions, it's a perfectly common, normal thing. There actually is a historical reason. And it's interesting because I remember when I was younger, I was very interested in several things. One thing I was really interested in was religion, or perhaps spirituality, but when I was a young girl, spirituality was not a word that we used very often, if ever. Religion was the way we discussed those kinds of matters. And so I took 4 years of religion study. I took 4 years of music appreciation too, because I really like that. So I have to say, you'd be surprised if you really looked into the history of why we do certain things in our religion, that they weren't really commanded by God, whatever God is to those folks. It really was just man-made rules for very egotistical reasons. That's a whole other video, or maybe more than one, I don't know, but it doesn't really speak to what I'm trying to do here. I just want to share my ideas because, of course, I know them to be truths, but they're not true for everybody, I'm sure, just like anything else, We all have our own thing we believe in. But I do think I have a perspective that's unique compared to most other people, and maybe not all other people, but a lot of people. I have a very unique perspective. So I just want to share that in case you're sort of looking around for spiritual things, and maybe you're a seeker, maybe you are, opening up, we'll call it, to this other realm of life. And if you are, maybe I can answer a few questions for you. If it makes sense to you, that's great. If it doesn't, you can believe whatever you want. You know what I mean? I'm just talking. All right, enough of that. So, why does reincarnation, what is it? Why does it make sense? What's it about? I mean, it's really a simple answer. And it's an obvious answer in some ways. When you think about natural, organic things, right? Everything in the earth, on the earth, whatever, gets recycled at some point. Now, I'm not talking about baby diapers that are curled into little balls and will probably be for the next, 3,000 years. I'm talking about anything organic gets recycled. It doesn't matter what it is. And if that makes sense, that once, a leaf falls from the tree and falls onto the dirt, at some point it's breaking down and then turns into the dirt that has the minerals that will feed the tree so that new leaves can be created and born, we'll say. It's all like that. And the human body would be like that too if we weren't so, it's a leaf falling and landing on the ground is very different than a human being dying and laying on the ground. So we tend to bury people in the ground. Maybe that's why we do it. Maybe that's just they started doing it because it wouldn't smell. If it was down 6 feet. I don't know. I didn't actually look into the history of that. And I probably should, because that's pretty interesting too. But anyway, it makes sense that in the natural world, reincarnation, dying and becoming something else, makes sense. It happens all the time. So to think that in the natural world You know, we are talking physical in most cases, but there's nothing more natural than who we really are. You know, when you think about personality and temperament and those kinds of things, you know, does that go away if a body dies? I mean, I'm 67, so let's give me, you know, let's go with 20 years. When I'm 87 years old, now probably really, really wrinkled and really old, and maybe I can't even remember my name, you know, I don't know what it'll be. I hope I'm not still making these videos because I'll really confuse you, but anyway, you know, at some point I die. What is it that died? I mean, you got to kind of think about this, because we know there's a certain part of our brains that holds our memories, and we know there's another certain parts of our brain that makes us, you know, move our hands, you know, and learn and forget, and all this, the different things that our brain responds to music in one way and screaming and yelling in another way. You know, our brains are like little computers, pretty incredible. But memories themselves can't be seen. I mean, there's a part of our brain that works to remember, to pull that to ourselves, but the actual memory, the actual event, the feelings that you have, for instance, not just of the event, but actually emotions and all those kinds of things can be scientifically explained to a point. And then we have to say, well, where are they really? It's almost like TV or radio. Like, think about that. Radio stations over here playing a song, and way over here, somehow you hear that without any wires. It just goes floating over the, you know. It's invisible, but it's real. Love is real. It's invisible. Electricity is real, but we can't see it. So how could someone think, although most people do believe there's a soul, I think not everybody, you know, some people are extremely organic, and that's fine because that's what they need to be right now. That's how I believe it anyway. I think we are who we are for a reason. But why would nature be any different, you know, than electricity, which is energy? I mean, we could really break this down, right? That's a God thing, so we'll talk about that in another video. But reincarnation is simply the idea that your soul leaves the body it's been in. Like for me, when I die, my soul will go floating off, and I don't believe it stays completely separate. I do think that there are separate souls. Like I was talking in a video several times ago about the individual blood cells in your body, kind of representing soul within the body of God. I think we do individually leave and join with all the other souls that are not in a body right now. And I could really complicate it, and also tell you that even though my soul would have left my body and I'm with all the other souls who aren't in bodies right now, my soul's also connected to people who are alive and their bodies still have their soul inside. So my soul can be connected to, once I take off for the next adventure, my soul could not only be connected to all of those souls, but still be connected to the souls that I had in this last life with me. Or maybe other. I mean, it could get very complicated, but still very simple. We're just going to deal with, I'll talk about myself, because then I don't have to bring anybody else into it. So my soul leaves the body, and it's, now you have to understand, whenever your body's not here, you're not restricted anymore. There's no restriction of physicality, there's no restriction of memory. So now soul is going to remember every single life it has ever had, every feeling it has ever had, every thought that it may have ever had. And so now soul is, I call it free floating, but now it's able to work with the other souls and the souls of the people who are still alive that it was close to. And it can determine, sometimes quickly, and maybe it might take time also, did it reach its destiny, its goal for that life? That's probably an easy answer. Is there anything else it learned that it could use for another area where it needs to work, something else it needs to learn? And then there can be a decision that soul can make about what it wants to come back and experience next time, what its destiny will be, what it needs to learn. And there's going to be a never-ending list of things that we can learn as soul. But let's see, next time maybe I'll come back as a man who is from China, and I'll try to make sure that I don't get married even though I really want to. So I'll do something, there'll be some quirky part of my personality that nobody will want me. Maybe I'll be really poor. And you can decide, and only for the purpose of, I need this experience. It's not because, I want to be Chinese. It's because I need an experience in that culture, in that way of thinking, in that lifestyle. And I could also ask other souls, especially ones that I've been in lives with before that I am more familiar with, hey, how about you come with me and you can be something in this life? And and it's a kind of, it can be a group decision, it can be a single decision. But soul's reincarnation is simply about continuing the process of learning how to love. To really love, not just the kind of love we give each other as humans, but the divine type of love that is unconditional. And I think the closest thing to that is a mother or father and their child. And I think the mother more often is the one we think of, as the nurturer. But I think as moms, you can not be happy sometimes with something your child does, but that doesn't stop you loving them or believing in them or hoping the best for them, even though they don't always show you their best side. So anyway, that's divine to me. Divine love is, just imagine how much more it is than what I feel for my children, or my grandchildren. It must be amazing, and ecstasy, bliss, all that good stuff. So the purpose of soul is to reincarnate into a body of someone who will offer those life lessons, because the experience can happen in this setting. And sometimes it's a group decision. A bunch of people who were in a life before have, we'll call it karma between them that is not in balance. That's a whole other thing, right? The balance of karma. I talked about karma. I didn't talk about the balance of karma. That's actually a pretty cool subject. I'll get to that one really soon. So we come into life with a purpose, with a chosen destiny. Nobody told us about that. We chose it. And the people we chose to come with us, we probably have some karma between us that we need to balance. And they probably have experiences that they need to have. So yeah, they'll come back, And I have some memories of that kind of stuff, which is probably what makes it easier to believe, because I remember bits and pieces of past lives. And maybe dreams is something else I should talk about, right? Because dreams can be more than just dreams. I'll add that to the list. My list is so long. But I think some of these things sort of, kind of layer on top of each other. So the purpose of reincarnation is simply to have the opportunity to learn what we still don't understand or know, even if we've tried in several lives to understand it. For instance, if, let's say I, in a past life, had some issue that I was not able to handle and I killed myself, I would probably come back at some point in quite a similar situation. It wouldn't be exact because I didn't actually figure it out with that exact scenario. So let's give us another scenario. Let me try this in this scenario. And I come back again and, give up on something and kill myself again. So then I guess I have to come back. After a while you get tired of killing yourself. You're like, okay, that doesn't even work. Because now I've got to come back and do the whole darn thing again in another body with another situation. I don't know if you've ever seen Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. Most people who watch that movie, it's really funny. And it's an interesting concept. But little do most people understand that it's really the story of reincarnation. And in the story, Bill Murray is supposedly having one day after another that just keeps repeating. And he goes through all sorts of things. He goes through, don't like it, wish it wouldn't happen, can't stand this, being kind of mean. Eventually he goes through recognizing that maybe he can do a few things here to make bad things not happen. He gets tired of it and he tries to kill himself several times. Of course, the next morning he wakes up again and everything is started over. And eventually he figures out how to love, genuinely love a person. If you expand that idea of that movie into it's representative of coming back to life, learning, sometimes being upset, trying to kill yourself, and eventually what does it come to? It doesn't come to fake love. It comes to actually finding out what real love is, and what kindness is, and what caring is. That's the story of soul. That's the story of reincarnation, 100%. But if you watch it, you have to remember that even though he's waking up on the same day all the time, that's really just representing coming back to life and doing it again until you figure it out. And that's really what soul is here for. That's what reincarnation is, to figure out, how to love, how to genuinely really love, and what that is. So that's the point to reincarnation. That's why we're here. That's why it happens. And I think why it makes sense, because let's be really honest, and I could talk about any religion. Once again, in my country, in the United States, Christianity is the biggest religion. So I'm going to compare it only with this one. But I could theoretically compare it to many other religions. The point to reincarnation, the idea of it, although it seems impossible to some people, it's the only thing that makes sense. For instance, if you are Christian, and that's the religion you practice, and honestly, I've been Christian, I know I have, and I probably will be again sometime, because that's a part of, an experience. But if you're Christian, you are taught to believe that every soul that's born has one life, and when it dies, it either goes to heaven or hell, We're always hoping for heaven, you know. But then you have to ask yourself, what do they do then? Like, what is the purpose of living a life? Maybe a devoted life. Maybe a kind and loving and caring life. And then you get to heaven, and I guess you're done. I mean, why bother? I mean, we may as well just be organic, right? Think about it. If there's people who believe that we live and die organically, there's nothing beyond the physical. Okay. So in some ways that makes total sense if you're a scientifically minded person. But what is the difference between that and the same thing happening except a soul that now goes to heaven or hell and that's it? Like, well then what, you're floating around in clouds for eternity with a bunch of other people floating around in clouds? Like, there's no purpose to that. What would be the purpose of us having no purpose? And whether we live and die organically or we live and die and go to heaven or hell, there still wasn't a purpose to us living. There was no purpose. Reincarnation gives us a purpose. It gives us a lot of experiences, and it gives us a reason to be. The other thing I want to just briefly talk about reincarnation is that people don't understand how many lives you can have. Like, they think, oh, I had 2 other lives. Did you? Like, maybe in the last century, but like, do you think you're going to learn it all in 2 lives? I mean, ooh, that's not very many. And people say, oh, well, maybe in a past life I used to be, Jane Seymour, or I used to be, well, maybe she's still alive. But, somebody will say that someday. I used to be Genghis Khan. I used to be Abraham Lincoln. I used to be, everybody here has probably been somebody who was well known at the time, at some time when they were alive. We don't all have to have had a famous life. That's an experience though, right? So at some point, somewhere, sometime, we're probably all going to get a chance to be a famous rock star or something, because it's an experience that our soul needs. But you probably have lived thousands of times, maybe more than that. It's hard to imagine the count. It's not just, oh, I had a previous life. You really did, but keep going, because think of how many lives it will take. And if you're not quite sure what I'm talking about, I have a video about what is soul that probably might explain that a little bit. I think that's the one. Why are we here? Maybe that's why are we here? Look at that one. But anyway, imagine how many lives it would actually take to learn how to be everything, how to understand every experience, how to feel all the emotions of every kind of thing that could happen. That's not going to happen in 2 lives. It might take you 10 lives to figure out you shouldn't kill yourself anymore. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be a waste of time. So the purpose of reincarnation is to give us the opportunity, the vehicle to continue to grow in our soul, to continue to grow, to continue to understand, to have more empathy, to, what do I keep saying? To finally know what love is. And then, the next job, to become love. It's a long journey, a lot of fun, sometimes kind of crummy, but we're in it together. So let me know what you think about what I've said, because I'm really, really interested in your comments, and I do want to answer each and every one of them. In the meantime, don't forget to hit that like button if this was fascinating to you. And go ahead and watch some more of my videos. I do have them numbered for a reason. I think it'll make more sense to you if you actually watch them in order. Not that I have a real grand scheme of things going on here, but But I want to explain the basics so we can get into some of the nitty-gritty. And right now we're on the verge of nitty-gritty, but we're not quite there yet. So anyway, I hope you'll come back. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.